Carbon is emitted into the air by human activities. Use of fossil fuels to power industry and a modern lifestyle has increased the amount of carbon in the atmosphere. This added carbon causes a multitude of effects, often referred to as climate change. We'll refer to this as the carbon problem. We have all contributed to this problem. The most common form of carbon in the air is carbon dioxide, CO2. Too much CO2 in the atmosphere traps heat, which changes our environment. While too much CO2 can cause negative environmental effects, it is also a vital plant nutrient. CO2 in the air, which is both naturally occurring and from human sources, is captured by plant leaves and stored in new locations, like plant stems, roots, and ultimately in the soil. Carbon in the air winds up in these new locations through the natural processes of photosynthesis and plant growth and decay. Places that can store large amounts of carbon, such as long lived perennial plants and soil, are called carbon sinks. So, CO2 that exists in the air becomes the source of carbon for plants. As plants use this carbon, it is stored above and below ground in carbon sinks. However, the air and the land are no longer in balance. This is because carbon fixed by plants in ancient times is released when fossil fuels are burned, thereby increasing the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere and contributing to the carbon problem. There are two ways to rebalance the system. One, reduce carbon emissions into the air, and two, increase carbon storage in sinks. How are carbon emissions controlled today? The most popular way currently is through allowances. Allowances allow an emitter to release a certain amount of CO2 into the air for a fee. Through this process, fees are collected from those that produce CO2. Unfortunately, no carbon is actually removed from the air. In fact, more carbon is going into the atmosphere, though now it has a cost. Companies will continue to buy allowances and emit CO2 as long as it is profitable for them to do so. Thus, allowances are not working to reduce CO2 emissions to the air, nor take CO2 out. In today's carbon market, allowances let companies look like they are reducing emissions, but really make little impact on the carbon problem. Plants, by contrast, can meaningfully help the carbon problem because they use the CO2 that has been produced by human activities for plant growth. In fact, about 40% of a plant's mass is carbon. Remember, CO2 extracted from the atmosphere by plant leaves is used by the plant to grow more leaves, stems, and roots. Farmers and ranchers can help by managing plants in ways that help them to store carbon above and below the ground more effectively. With proper management, around 45% of plant carbon is stored above ground and 55% is stored deep below ground in root systems. Using plants to store carbon solves the carbon problem in a way allowances can't. Growing plants creates real carbon credits that can be measured, seen, and touched, as well as bought, sold, banked, and traded. Unlike allowances that just charge a fee for continuing to emit carbon into the atmosphere, real carbon credits meaningfully reduce carbon in the air and address the carbon problem. Each carbon credit represents 1 ton or 2,000 pounds of CO2 removed from the atmosphere. Real carbon credits are useful risk management tools for many different businesses and organizations. They represent a commitment to social responsibility and environmental sustainability that benefits stockholders, investors, and the world as a whole. They're bought and used by emitters, socially responsible companies concerned about the environment, and by individuals that want to start a carbon neutral legacy. The key to certified, verifiable carbon credits is having an accurate and transparent way to measure carbon captured and stored by plants in carbon sinks. Environmentally Correct Concepts has created a scientifically sound, peer reviewed, patented protocol for measuring carbon stored in sinks. Our protocol has been recognized by the U.S. Energy Information Administration. Our scientific methodology creates a transparent calculation of captured and stored carbon. This process enables us to work with landscape managers to solve the carbon problem by removing CO2 from the atmosphere. Real carbon credits do everything to address the carbon problem that the current allowance strategy does not. ECCI has a 20-year record of innovation in landscape management that provides food, feed, and bioenergy, all while cleaning the air. We have a network of licensees standing ready who link land managers with our quantification technology and are ready to work with emitters, socially conscious companies, and concerned individuals to capture carbon today. Are you ready to help clean the air? Contact Environmentally Correct Concepts now to take the next step.